So, meet Brent. Brent was my second hire inside Club Closer. He's worked for me now for 19 months and he started as an appointment setter, and in recent months he's transitioned into closing. Brent's had quite a colourful past. He's tried all these different business models, been in loads of different industries, and yeah, Brent, I guess first question for you, man, is what got you into being a part of Club Closer?
So a crazy story, I decided years ago that sales was definitely for me, but going the traditional route, going into real estate, just like everyone in my family, it was kind of that rite of passage. Grew up on a real estate floor as a baby and just really found myself questioning that sort of traditional sales background, and decided that I needed a break from that sort of selling because it was just so intense. There was a lot of pressure, and being a millennial, I didn't know what to do. I could see the internet was a thing, but it kind of wasn't, booming at that stage. So I decided I'm going to take a few years off, go traveling, to which I jumped on to a super yacht. And as soon as I got back and had that taste of freedom 2 years later, working on that boat, I decided, well, look, I'm seeing a lot of people making money online. I've tried so many different routes. Maybe sales is the thing I'm used to and I could fall back on. So crazy story, I did a silent retreat over New Year's with a bunch of my friends, all of which are business owners, and they just recommended, Brent, you've got the sales background, why not try something like appointment setting or closing? And here we are.
Yeah, it's really funny. Brent applied for an appointment setter job 20 months ago, and I actually had to sell you on joining Club Closer because it was us and a more corporate company you were looking at.
Yeah.
And I remember having to try and sell you on working for me and being a part of Club Closer, which is quite a funny story. But I guess and this is not a traditional kind of success story or interview, because you worked for me. You have gone through Club Closer now, but you weren't someone we sold to and you bought in, you joined the team first. I think it'd be really interesting just to speak on the difference between setting, which you did for a year and a half, and the transition into closing. What were the biggest challenges you faced? What were the biggest changes? Because a lot of people watching this are probably thinking, maybe I do appointment setting first, maybe I just jump straight into closing. What would you recommend? Because to be honest, it took you a long time to get into closing.
Yeah, and I guess that's the crazy thing, is that I knew from the start that, appointment setting was just that first step, but it was kind of always going to be a part-time thing for me. If I had maybe ventured out and approached you a lot sooner and been I want to get into closing, and started pushing that route, I feel like I would have got a lot of success at an earlier stage in my career. Because I come from the sales background, I'd done the work, but I kind of just wanted that freedom of working online. Coming from a millennial myself, where you're still uncertain about making money online, you wonder how long this is going to last, but then jumping into Club Closer, having that experience and just really seeing, closing is something that I could use and not spend so much time on my phone speaking to random people for hours on end. I could just take a few calls, make a bunch of money, and still, have that skill set that's transferable. If I could have done it all over again, I would have got into closing a lot sooner, and kind of pushed you and pressured you into that, because I knew that was something I wanted.
Did you think there was ever a point where I wasn't going to put you on as a closer because you were performing so well as a setter?
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. I guess when you do well as a setter and you are getting the results, you kind of are encouraged to stay in that role, because why would you change something that isn't broken? The business was doing well. I was hitting my record months as a setter, but I could see that I wanted more from just the space than just setting. And I wanted to learn the back end. Setting's a good way to learn the back end, but as a closer, you kind of skip that whole part and you can go straight into it, have that skill, make more money, travel, and I just feel that was the way.
You kind of hit a ceiling with setting, and you're doing really well. And it was only, I think, 6 months ago, you sort of started hinting at the idea of wanting to become a closer. And at first I was like, why would I put this guy that's performing really well as a setter on to be a closer? And I think a lot of business owners would think the same thing. So for anyone that's I'll do setting first and then I'll be closing, it's no, if you do really well in setting, they're not necessarily going to transfer you over and try and train you up as a closer. But obviously, I'm a bit nicer, maybe.
Yeah, you're definitely more open-minded to the idea. I guess a lot of business owners aren't, and that's the truth. I've got friends in the space that are stuck setting, and yeah, I'm very grateful to have had the opportunity to learn and earned in Club Closer.
Yeah, you've kind of learned what, like, you didn't go through, you learned, like, whilst in field, like on field, on the pitch. You weren't, like, waiting at the side training, you were doing it. You were doing the setting, you started taking some closing calls all at the same time. Be really interested to know, like, what was the hardest thing for you from making that transition from, like, what was the hardest thing learning how to sell over Zoom calls as opposed to, like, you know, what you're doing previously maybe with the real estate, or,
Yeah.
you know, you even tried to start an agency, even setting, like, what was the biggest challenge?
It's such an interesting one. It's because it always comes down to the fear of the unknown, because you end up taking a leap, trying something new, you get good at it, you find like this comfort in making that sort of income, and you know, like, well, I come from a place like South Africa where you can earn really good money as a setter, you could live off that. But then realizing that there's so much more to do and be in this world, that getting a little bit uncomfortable, stretching yourself, building on that skill set is just something that you know, was a little bit tough for me and to let go, because you know, you end up becoming so habitual in the way that you present yourself on the phone with setting. But the transition for me was, I was typing, then I started talking on the phone, then I started doing a lot of cold calls, and then realizing like I should just be taking Zoom calls. Like,
Forgot we put you on cold calls.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah, it's, one thing we didn't touch on that you just mentioned was you're from South Africa. So like the opportunities you had there, like a lot of people watching this will be from the UK, America, Canada, Australia. There's a lot more opportunities in those countries to do well in traditional sales path kind of pathways. You didn't really have those options.
No.
So like, tell me about that in terms of the opportunities you had and how the online space is actually giving you all these opportunities to work with like us, like a UK company.
For sure.
Come out to Spain, like travel the world.
For sure. I guess like the fact that there aren't so many opportunities was a blessing, because it made me look elsewhere.
Yeah,
working on a super yacht and earning good money in dollars, in euros, traveling the world, I realized that there was more to earning than just traditional South African paying job. So I'd already tasted that lifestyle. So for me, I just knew that there's something more than a 9 to 5. And I couldn't be asked to go back and try that again, because it's almost like stupidity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
That's interesting. So I think what a lot of people will want to know is the numbers. Like, just run us through briefly, like what you were earning in setting.
Mm-hmm.
You've been closing 2 months now. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this month you just finished, and last month was your first closing month. In terms of numbers, like what were you doing in setting? What did you do this month for closing?
Yeah, so interesting. I went from literally capping out in setting. There was not much more I could do. I was spending so much time in the inbox and compounding my growth. I'd say my good months were like 5K. You know, that was like the ceiling for me.
Yeah.
And, you know, second month into closing, I'm hitting 10K months. And it's only growing from there. So this is just the start, and I've got so much to learn still. I know there are levels to this game, and it's just like Super Mario, where you have to go to that next level and continue.
Harder.
Yeah.
But your skill sets get better, so it should, in theory. All right, cool. And like, we're all about transparency here at Club Closer. Obviously, a lot of guys are going to be jumping on sales calls with you as your, you know, key team member. They're going to be jumping on sales calls with you. They're probably watching this before they speak to you. What's sort of the one bit of advice you would give to those people that are considering getting into closing? Whether that be with Club Closer, whether that be with, you know, they're just considering taking that different route from the 9 to 5, from the traditional sales path. What's the biggest advice you would give to them?
Yeah, it's just plain and simple, really. It's like there's a reason why people do work that traditional 9 to 5 route. And if you've got that inkling that this isn't for you and it's been weighing on you for a few months, even a year, and you know that there's more to life, there's no harm in exploring an opportunity like closing that just builds up your skill set. There's no loss. You're just making yourself better so that you can earn more and be of more value in any market. And the fact is that the internet's not going anywhere. I don't see life without the internet, without making money online. I believe this is the only way, and if people are doing it, why can't you?
Yeah, 100%. And that's a perfect point to end. Brent, appreciate
Sweet.
your time.